Okay. Once again, sorry for the interruption. I had to reboot everything and I have to get back to this. And I feel all of the people are not yet back. Adris is here, Maveen is here, Atif is here now, and Shahid is here, Rijo is here, Wasif is not so far. Okay, let's see. Fine. So I hope Wasif will be joining in a while. Um, So what we talked about was the definition of the project in detail. We said that a project is naturally a temporary endeavor, and we are trying to create something unique, and that something is the deliverable, which could be product, service, or result. We defined the product, service, or result also. We also defined the temporary endeavor, and we also said that uh, a project has to meet certain goals and objectives, and that would bring the change. That was the point which I was discussing, that it is always to bring the change that we do the projects. Projects are normally aligned for that. And as Rijo was saying, that the projects ultimately end up in operational change. I would rather like to look at it from the organizational point of view rather than operational point of view. It is a strategic change. Operations work under the strategy. Projects also work under the strategy. But projects are means to bring the change. When there is a change required in operations, strategy understands that need for change, and therefore it gives birth to a new project to bring that change. And once that change has been brought in, that has been tested and has to be sustained and implemented, the project is successful, then operation takes over as a rule. So Vasif is also back. So let's move on to the next topic, and that is, what is project management? Again, project management is very simple to describe. Project manager must be the way of managing the projects. Yes, it is, but there is a little bit of you know understanding required to see the definition of project management, what it really means. So I would again get back to you and like to ask you, what do you think the project management really means, starting with Wasif. Ji Wasif, can you hear me? Just a minute. Okay. Wasif, please tell me, what do you think what project management is? I cannot see your mic. By the way, I cannot see the mic of anyone. Does that mean I can't hear any one of you? Just hold on. Let me fix that. I don't know why this happens time and again. Okay. Still, no, we can't. Cannot hear any one of you. Okay, I think I should continue with my part. Let me give you the definition of project management. Now, this is very interesting because, yes, it is the management of the project, but how do we do it? There are four things. First, you must have knowledge about project management. Second, you must have experience, skills in applying that knowledge to the project management. And third, you must know what are the various tools required to do the project management. And fourthly, you must understand the technique to use those tools. Now, this looks very innocent: knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques, but this is very complicated. Now, each one of you is from a different area of specialization, from different technology, and you do hold certain knowledge in that technology, certain education in that technology. You may be a seasoned engineer, you may be an IT expert or whatever, a management expert, but tell me truthfully, do you really hold any knowledge of project management from your technical area? Do you get any such kind of training in specifically in project management from any of these areas? Which is the slide you can see? Let me. This is the very first slide of project management definition. If you can see that, it says application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. Can you all see that? Okay, okay, wonderful. So what I was saying is project management means the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques. Now, just stop here. What are the knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques? Do you have the requisite knowledge in project management? Have you ever been trained as a project manager while you were doing your whatever technical education you have got or your degree? Was project management a subject? Atif, which slide can you see? Can you see the project management definition in front of you? I have a problem. I cannot hear any one of you, but you see, we can at least write in chat. Mubin can see the slides moving. Uh, Atif can see. Probably you all should be able to see the slides moving. Is the problem fixed? Right, it's fine. Right. So my question was, do you have requisite knowledge in project management? Were you taught when you were doing your engineering or management or whatever? Was project management a subject? Please write down your answers. No. Idris says no. Shahid says no. You see how interesting this is. We all claim to be the project managers. We all handle multi-million dollar projects. We are engineers, we are doctors, we are management gurus and all that. But as such, we do not hold any formal education in project management. None of our degrees teach us what project management is and how do we do it. This is the basis. If you do not have the knowledge, how can you run a project? How can you be experienced in applying that knowledge which you don't have? That is crucial. That is really alarming. So, what we are trying to do is, based on our technical knowledge, we start doing the projects, and truthfully speaking, that is ad hoc project management. We are doing ad hoc project management. We do not know the principles of project management. We do not know how to do these projects more efficiently and effectively, but we are still doing them, and we think that what we know is the ultimate. This is how the job can be done. We do not understand the job can even be done better. Yes, as Shahid says, we are always firefighting. We are being reactive. We react to situations. We are not being proactive. Project management teaches you how to be proactive. And we will see the role of proactivity subsequently when we start learning further things. So we lack knowledge. We may have experience, but this is not the relevant experience. This is firefighting knowledge. This is reactive knowledge. This is as and when the things happen, we solve the problem in one way or the other, and we move ahead. But this is not the right way of doing it. Firstly, you must have the basic knowledge of project management, and you must follow some book, some standard, some body of knowledge. Now we are comfortable because we do have a body of knowledge in shape of PMBOK, or even if you do not want to believe it, as somebody was objecting to PMBOK yesterday, Mubin said that there are things which are wrong in this standard. Yes, I do agree. There might be some things which are wrong in this standard, but then do you have another standard? Do you have anything better than this? And whatever is wrong with this standard, can it not be improved ultimately? It is evolving, and I have convinced you yesterday also that this is evolving knowledge. Every 4 years, they are revising this standard. The new editions come up, and it is always, a fresh breath when you convert to another newer version. So the very first thing is we have to adopt something as a base of knowledge, as a body of knowledge, and believe in it. Start believing in it. Number one. Number two, after having acquired that knowledge, you are supposed to practice it. You are supposed to gain experience working in it, which we don't have. As I just said, we are very experienced. I have, say, 30 years of experience or 35 years of experience, but on what? On ad hocism. Right. If I have the proper knowledge, okay, I do not want to say that the knowledge we have or the experience we currently have is a waste. No, not at all. If you have 10 years, 20 years of experience, we do not want to waste it, but we want you to learn the latest in project management, gain the knowledge of project management, and then auto correct yourself. Analyze the whole experience you have, the skill you have, and autocorrect yourself. Wherever you have been doing things wrong, you must realize that I have been doing these things wrong at these points, and I promise not to do it wrong again, because now I have the knowledge, now I understand how it should be done. So that is how you will correct your experience and validate your 20 years of experience according to the new knowledge base. That is extremely important. Even if you study this course, you understand all what I am telling you, you go for the PMP exam and you pass. Even then, if you do not want to adopt to it, your experience requirement is not fulfilled. You are not skillful in the use of this knowledge. Therefore, you won't be able to apply it properly. Number three, I have the requisite knowledge, I have the requisite skills, but do you have all the tools which are required to do the project management? Well, I know you won't be able to understand that very easily. Now, let us not talk about a project manager, let us talk about someone else. Maybe a carpenter. A carpenter, once he wants to work on his job, he needs first to have knowledge. So he goes to a school, he learns the art of carpentry from there, and naturally there are some basic things taught to him. What kinds of wood are available, what kind of wood would be required for what kind of job, from where this wood comes, what kind of tree was it, how was it cut, how is it, converted into logs and seasoned, and how it was transported. So this is the part of his knowledge base. He must know the wood he is getting for his job, from where and how has it reached him. Then once he has that raw material available to him, what to do with it, what are the different tools he need to use. He must be introduced and he must be comfortable with the use of those tools, and he must gain the knowledge to convert that piece of wood into a table. So these tools help him do that. So project manager must also have some kinds of tools. You must understand which are the tools which are required for the project manager to apply his knowledge and skills on ground. So after you have the tools, maybe you have the tools, but if you do not know the technique to apply those tools onto the project activities, it is again a waste. Again, going back to the example of a carpenter who has his tools and he can do carpentry. Okay, I hire a carpenter, I ask him to make a table, and he says, I can't do it. I say, why? He says, I have a reason. I say, you have been trained in carpentry? He says, yes, I have got 1 year training on that. I say, how much experience do you have? He says, I have 15 years of experience. Wonderful. Then you are a good carpenter. Then why can't you do it? He says, I don't have my tools. So without the tools, he is not going to make the table by his bare hands. So ultimately, he needs to have the tools. So what I do? I give him a set of tools I have. So now he has the tools. How comfortable are you if you are given the tools like this? Are you okay? Do write down your answer. Is it okay? If I give you my set of carpentry tools, you have the knowledge, you have the skills, what is the problem? Can you do it? And what is the reason? Shahid? Exactly. Idris is right. We do not know the technique of using that specific tool. Maybe it is a saw, and I did not have the saw as a carpenter, and he gave me a saw, and I do not know what kind of a saw this is. This is an electric saw. I have never used an electric saw. What is the technique of using? If someone will teach me, if someone will guide me, only then I'll be able to make use of it. I have to understand the technique of using that tool. Even if it is not an electric saw, if it is a normal saw, even then the person using it for the first time will have some kind of difficulty. He is more comfortable using his own tools. So technique has to be acquired or learned. You buy a new TV set. You have been seeing the TV from your childhood. Is it something new to you? No. But you can't tune a new TV set. Why? You don't know the technique. You have to go through the user manual. You have to follow those steps at least for the first time to tune the TV, and then you would learn it, and then it will be absolutely no problem doing it again and again. But for the very first time you are using a tool, you need to understand the technique to do it. So now I hope you understand knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques. Project management does have its own set of tools and techniques. You have the knowledge, you have the skills, you have the tools and techniques. Now apply that. Now apply that to what? To the work of the project. And only to the work of the project. This is a very important point. The application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques related to project management can only be applied to project activities. It cannot be applied to operational activities or anything else. This is a limitation of project management. It should not be applied to operational activities. Application of project management knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques only applies to project activities. And only those project activities which are required to be done to meet the specific project objectives or project requirements. If you are trying to do certain activities which are not required by the organization which are not required within the goals of the project, why the hell are you doing those activities? Why are you wasting your project management knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques on those activities which are not contributing towards the organizational benefit? Project requirements are not being met by that. Then these are not these are not project activities at all. These might be operational activities or some kind of waste. So there is a very hard line here that we have to apply the knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques of project management only to the project activities, and that is for the purpose of meeting specifically the project requirements. And by this definition, what comes out is prominently, which oozes out of it, is the scope of the project, the purpose of the project. You must always be aligned towards that purpose. You must work within the scope of the project. If something is not within the scope of the project, that is not to be done. That is not project management at all. I hope I make myself clear. Okay, coming over to a guide to project management body of knowledge, PMBOK guide. PMBOK guide gives us a number of processes, which are generic in nature, and these are 47 processes. So according to PMBOK guide, this project management is accomplished through the appropriate application and integration of these 47 logically grouped project management processes. These are called project management processes, and they can be grouped into 5 different process groups. So these 47 processes are actually divided into 5 different process groups. So, if we can logically group these project management processes, then they will cover all the work of project management. Mind it, I'm saying project management. I'm not saying project work. I'm saying project management. So this is all about project management, how to manage your project better, efficiently, effectively. So these 47 processes will help you do that. These are the 5 process groups: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring and control, and closing. Okay, let me explain very briefly, what do we do in each one of these process groups. These are the 5 process groups in front of you: initiating a project, planning a project, executing a project, monitoring and controlling a project, and closing a project. What do we do? First, in initiating a project. In initiating a project, this is the point where the project has to be started. So you have to kickstart the project here. That means the need for the project has already been realized. It has already been decided that we will be doing this project. And now we are at a point when the work on the project has to be initiated. At this point, whomsoever is responsible for initiating the project must be sure that whatever the objectives of the project are, whatever the goals of the project are, whatever is the purpose of the project is, that is actually aligned with the organizational objectives. You would say, well, business case has already been prepared. Feasibility, it is a feasible project. That's why we are doing it. Why do we need to check it before we initiate it. You see, this is the responsibility of anyone and everyone in the organization. Whenever you do anything, you must look back and check the strategic alignment of whatever you are doing with the organizational goals and objectives. If it is not being fruitful for the organization at any level where you realize that whatever I am doing is not aligned with the organizational objectives, you have to highlight that. It is not just because my boss told me to do that and therefore I must do it. No, sir. You are serving the organization. Your boss is also serving the same organization. Your boss might have given you the decision to the best of his knowledge, but when you are trying to do it, you realize that there is some problem, and whatever I am asked to do is not actually going to be contributed toward the organizational objectives. You are supposed to highlight that because you might be right. Maybe when your your boss made the decision to give this job to you, in his understanding and in his eyes, and at that point in time, that was very much feasible. But at this point in time, when you are deciding to take it on, it is no more feasible. It is no more aligned with the organizational objective. You have to highlight it to your boss or whomsoever it is, and it may be reconsidered. So, generally speaking, it is the responsibility of every employee of the organization. Whatever they are doing, they must keep checking the organizational alignment with the objectives of the organization. And if they find something wrong, they are supposed to highlight it. And if everybody does that, everything we do in the organization will always remain aligned with the organizational objectives. Now, coming back to the project. When we are doing the project had a purpose. We are doing it for the betterment of the organization. We want to bring some kind of change in the organization. This organizational objective which we are following must always be kept in mind. When the feasibility of this project was done, it was found fit case to do. At that point in time, it was okay. But when we are now trying to initiate the project, the person ordering this must check whether it is still feasible, it is still okay to do it, or the need is no more. And even when you are doing the project, you have actually started it, you are right in the middle of it. At any point in time when you realize that you have strayed away from the organizational objective, or there is no more any need for this project, this is a fit case for termination. Then you have to highlight that. I hope you are all getting me. It is not only the organizational objectives we are worried about. Yes, of course, that is my primary concern. But whatever the project we are doing, it is not only for the organization we are doing it, we might be doing it for a customer. Do we have an eye on the customer need? Is our project still aligned with the customer need? Or for that matter, I would rather say the stakeholder needs and expectations, which will be covered a little later. But the person ordering the project must see the alignment of the project with the organizational objectives as well as with the customer needs and expectations. And whenever there is a problem, it has to be fixed. Secondly, when the order has been given to the project manager to start the project, he needs to open up his mind and try to conceive and understand the basic scope, the preliminary scope. By preliminary scope, I do not mean a very comprehensive, detailed scope. This scope statement, the preliminary scope statement, might be an imaginary thing. It might not be a document in itself, but it must at least include the stakeholder needs and expectations. This is not only the customer need. I am talking about the stakeholder needs and expectations, And who all are the stakeholders? This is not only the customer. Stakeholders are all those people who either can affect the project or be affected by the consequence of the project, and any one of these could have their own needs and expectations which have to be kept in mind. So the preliminary scope statement would include that. Moreover, at the stage of giving the order to start the project, the person ordering it must also have a high level view of what will be the major risks in the project, the broad assumptions and limitations and constraints and such like things which are available, are conceivable at this point in time. So they may also be included in that statement. And by statement, I do not mean the scope statement. I mean to say this document, which is ordering the project manager to take on the project. And by the way, just for your information, this document we call the project charter. Project chart. So all the stakeholders must be identified, their needs must be understood, and ultimately this charter, this order, this authorization to start the project must have been given. This must have been approved by the appropriate authority. So when you have done these jobs, you have formally initiated the project. You have formally initiated the project. Any questions so far? You can type in the window. Okay, wonderful. Right. Let me move on to the next step. Once you have initiated the project, who initiates the project? It is not the project manager who initiates the project. Project manager is the one who actually gets the orders, gets the authorization from his boss. His boss is the person who is the project initiator. We also call him the project sponsor, or in normal terms, we normally call him the project director or the boss of the project manager. This is the guy who orders the project manager to initiate the project. Once the initiation orders have been given, project manager has broadly understood the needs and requirements of the stakeholders they have been identified. Then we are all set for detailed planning. We move on to the next step, that is the next process group, which is called planning a project. To keep it brief, I would say that in this process, we plan anything and everything related to the project. But by the end of the day, we need to have a workable, comprehensive, detailed project management plan. There are 10 different knowledge areas which have to be planned in detail during planning. And all of those plans add up to form the project management plan. We do not have to be reactive here. We have to give ample time to planning. And we have to come up with a comprehensive project management plan which could be executed in the next process group. So here the project scope is established and agreed upon. Project schedule is developed and agreed upon and approved. Cost budget is also found out and approved. Project teams are identified, their roles and responsibilities are defined, communication requirements and activities are agreed upon, quality management processes established, so on and so forth. So all the 10 different knowledge areas are actually planned in detail at this stage. And we will not finish the planning until and unless we are fully satisfied that we have proactively planned the project in as much details as we could. You understand this much? So I will not go into the detail of what is included in planning. Naturally, we are going to talk more about it, but we will ultimately come up with a project management plan, which is a workable plan, which will be used in execution. Let us see what we do in execution. In execution, very interestingly, planning was a time when we were supposed to, use our brains to the optimum. We were trying to imagine whatever can go right or wrong, and I have considered everything in my planning. But when it comes to execution, you are supposed not to think but to do. Execution, it is not the place of the execution to start thinking what is right or what is wrong. It is supposed to do what has been told to it by the project management plan. No application of mind is allowed in execution. Now again, I am giving you a very surgical, very critical kind of a statement which you may not agree. But you see, as I said, in operations, we have standard operating procedures. You cannot do anything in defiance to the standard operating procedures. You cannot, keep changing your standard operating procedures without, proper procedure. And change can only be brought through some kind of decision making or conducting a project. So that's why we said that operations can't be changed, because they follow what have been written down in SOPs. In projects, we do not have SOPs, but to have consistency, to consistently do the project work, we must have, we must follow the project management plan, which we have just created very carefully, very deliberately. Now, while we are executing it, we can't rethink it, we can't change it, because in that way, we are never going to monitor and control it properly. So, if you are continuously changing your plan, then what are you executing? Which version of the plan are you executing, and who knows what's going on? So, execution, the person responsible for execution is not to change anything. He's just supposed to follow what is written in the project management plan. And I do agree there is a lot of uncertainty in a project, and due to that uncertainty, there will be certain cases where something which was planned is not doable. Execution will be held there. It cannot proceed ahead from that point on. What should execution do? Why should they not be allowed to use their mind and correct the problem there and then? Why? Any ideas? Yes, please. Why should execution not be allowed to change according to the need? Yes, please. I think you can probably speak. I just heard something. Ji Shahid?
Because sir, if there is any change, it's a kind of an iterative process. We can again go back to planning and do the changes and come and then again do the execution based on the new scope or based on the new changes, whatever we have made.
Wonderful, wonderful. You see, it is just like the same story. As in operations, operations were not allowed to make any changes by themselves. So within a project, when a project management plan has been created, it acts as a standard operating procedure for the execution. Execution itself, just like operations, execution itself cannot change anything. And if there has to be a change, that has to go through a change request procedure, and the ultimate authority would have to approve whether this change is allowed or not. If we don't do that, everything will be topsy-turvy. Everybody will be changing everything and there will be no control. If we want to exercise good monitoring and control, then execution should not be allowed to think. They should only be allowed to do what is written in the project management plan. So I'm not wrong if I say that project management plan is to execution what SOP is to plan is to operations. Operations follow SOPs. Execution of the project follows the plan, project management plan. And if there is any problem, that should be highlighted. It should be moved through a change request to monitoring and control, and monitoring and control will decide what changes to bring and how. Do not worry about this will take time, this is bureaucratic. It may not be that bureaucratic, it may be very simple. So uh, we have to make the procedures more effective rather than to break the chain. Don't break the chain, don't break the principles. So in execution, whatever we do, the scope will be achieved. No, not completely, but it would be progressively achieved. Stakeholder expectations will be managed, human resource will be managed, quality will be managed, materials will be managed as they will be spent. So in execution, things will happen. And what we are supposed to be doing in execution, we are supposed to be following the project management plan, and that's it. So once we are executing, simultaneously we are having a watch, we are having an eye on the execution through monitoring and control. So this is simultaneous. When execution is happening, monitoring and control is also happening. And in monitoring and control, we are tracking the progress of the project. Whatever is happening in execution, we are having an eye on it. We are communicating the status of the project to all relevant stakeholders as if they also know. And if there is a project, there's a change within a project, there is a complete procedure we have to devise, and that is how to move the change request, how the change management will happen within the project. The whole procedure has to be defined and followed. Quality is monitored and controlled. I'll explain later how quality and risk are monitored and controlled. But naturally, we do have controls for everything. All the knowledge areas, the 10 knowledge areas we talked about, all have to be monitored and controlled actually. So the controls will exist here, and each control of the relevant knowledge area will be responsible for that knowledge area. The project team is managed, the contracts are administered, all this is done during the monitoring and control. So this is an iterative process. We will keep, sending changes, and things will keep happening. They will keep get corrected. Project management plan will get amended with every change, and ultimately we'll keep improving. And until and unless we produce the ultimate objective of the project, the product of the project, till that time we'll move on. And once the product of the project has been created according to the specifications and requirements defined earlier, that is the point we start closing the project. So we have to do a paper audit of everything what has happened. We check if the project outcomes have finally been accepted, if the project resources have finally been released. The stakeholders whom we have been managing throughout the life of the project, we note down their perceptions and uh, put them down in some lessons learned document. And ultimately, the project is formally declared closed. You see, in closing, we do not have to do much except for formally closing down the things, because everything which had to be done has been done in monitoring and control. Even the deliverable has been accepted in monitoring and control. Closing is just a formality to ensure that all the products have been delivered, are created, all the work has been done, nothing is outstanding, all the people have been laid off and everything. And when everything is okay, that is the point we call off the project, we close the project, and that is project no more exists after this point. So this was closing a project. So I have very briefly described all the 5 process groups. Whatever points I have discussed, these points are not the processes. These are not the 47 processes I talked. These are just general points. What do we do in each one of these process groups? I'll talk more in detail about each and every one of these process groups. What are the processes in them? How do they interact? What do they produce? What is their purpose? We'll go into a lot of detail as far as this is concerned. But for now, this is what we need to understand, that project management has 47 processes according to PMBOK 5th edition, and these 47 processes are divided into 5 process groups, and we have to plan all the 10 knowledge areas, and here is a list of all the 10 knowledge areas. Number 1 is the integration, which is covered under chapter number 4. So this is the first knowledge area, therefore we give it number 1. Or for that matter, it is referred to, the processes of integration are referred to as 4.1, 4.2 because it's chapter number 4. Then we have another knowledge area, that is scope, time, cost, quality, human resource, communication, risk, procurement, stakeholders. So we have got all these 10 knowledge areas. And why I have highlighted integration? Because integration integrates the results of all these knowledge areas, combines and joins them into one, and creates the project management plan. So integration is responsible. The knowledge area integration is responsible for creation of the project management plan, and it also integrates the results of all other knowledge areas. Therefore, the parent of all these knowledge areas is integration. All other knowledge areas are contributors. They contribute towards the project management plan. I will discuss it also in detail later, how and what is contributed to the project management plan in the knowledge area of integration, and how each one of these knowledge areas are planned. So generally speaking, I'm not again being very specific. When you are trying to do a project, you must identify the requirements. You must address the various needs, concerns, and expectations of the various stakeholders as the project is planned and carried out. So, stakeholder is something or someone whom we have to take continuous care, and we start, interacting with the stakeholder from as soon as the project has been assigned. Right from initiation, we start working with the stakeholders, and we keep working with the stakeholders throughout the life of the project till the project is closed. So our interaction with stakeholder is continuous in nature. So we will continue to understand their needs, their expectations, their concerns, and we will keep them updated about the project, how it is being planned, how it is being carried out. So we need to keep the system completely transparent with our stakeholders. There is nothing secret about a project. This is utter bullshit. How can a project be a secret from the stakeholder? The person who has an interest in the project must know what it is. How can you hide that project or information about that project from a stakeholder? The only thing which could be there is that a stakeholder may not like to have certain information about the project because he thinks that is not relevant to him. It is not the project manager hiding information from stakeholder, but rather stakeholder not wanting to have certain information. So we will respect the stakeholder. Stakeholder are the customer, they are the bosses. What they want, we will have to do that. How can you hide something from the stakeholder? So there is a false perception of security, of national interest, and so many other things. Anything we want to hide our corruption, we want to hide everything we are doing wrong. What we do is we hide it behind the veil of security. There is nothing to be kept secured from the stakeholders. It should be a completely transparent system. You see, when we try to hide things from our stakeholders, that creates an environment of we lose confidence. Stakeholder does not trust you, and ultimately it will affect the success of the project. Then we set up, maintain, and carry out various kinds of communications with the stakeholders. Why? Because we want to keep in contact with the stakeholder. We want to keep them as our friends who should feel involved in the project. They must remain active, they must remain effective, they must collaborate throughout the life of the project. They are very important to us. Stakeholders are very, very important to us. We need to manage these stakeholders towards meeting our project requirements and creating the project deliverable. So this is just by the blessing of these stakeholders that we will be able to meet our requirements and we will be able to create the deliverable of the project. You just can't say that I'm doing it for my boss. So, okay, what Shahid did say, the perspective changes actually if a PM is from a supplier side or from our customer side. Well, Shahid, yes and no. Well, I will talk about this relationship also, the contractor relationship or the customer relationship. But you see, if we hide things from others, then there is something fishy. Just be rest assured. If we are hiding something, if you are doing all right, if you are looking after the interest of your customer as well of your own self, and if you are transparently doing that, you don't need to hide anything. So I know you might have your own objections to that, but naturally we will learn about it more, and we will talk about the opinion of others as well. Now, in project, there are certain constraints. You see, naturally, project is something uncertain. When I start moving in one direction, there are certain hurdles in that way. I change my direction, there are certain other hurdles, and I keep facing these hurdles, changing my ways, and ultimately, I will find my way out. So, once I am stopped by a hurdle in one direction, the impact of that change or impact of that hurdle or that constraint may be apparent into other areas. There could be, there is a change in scope. If I accommodate that, my quality will be affected, or my schedule will be elongated, or my cost will be increased, or things like that. So these are some of the constraints which will be affected by any one of these happening. If there is a change in quality, that could change the scope, that could affect the scope, that would increase the risk, that would be. So these are some of the scope, time, cost, quality, resources, risk, even communication, and even more. It clearly says balancing the competing project constraints, including but not limited to. It does not mean there are only 6 constraints. Actually, there are more than 8 constraints, and there could be even more. So whatever can be affected by one restriction, then that all has to be considered as constraint. So this is a general story how a project is done. Now another very important thing is the potential for change in project management. Now that this is very interesting. Why are we doing projects? To bring change in the organization. For organizational change, we decided to do the project and bring a change, improvement in the organization. Now look at within the project. I'm not now talking about the organization. Yes, I agree that the project we are doing is actually going to bring some change in the organization. But within the project, the things will change within. I plan something and it proves not to be correct, and I have to change my plan. So there is a continuous potential for change in a project, and no matter how much in detail, how much proactively I create a plan, that may not be 100% workable. And as soon as I find there is something wrong, I will have to redo the project management planning process and correct that plan there and then. And this iteration, this revision of the project management plan will keep happening throughout the life of the project. So, in principle, project management planning is going to be an iterative process. It is just not like that we are doing the planning of the project and a project management plan is created and then plan is done. No, it is not done. It can be reopened anytime, whenever there is a change request. We may have to amend the project management plan or the relevant documents, and it is going to happen again and again and again. And why is that? Because when I started planning the project, I did not know all the facts. There are a lot many things which were unknown, and where I did not have certain details, I did assume certain data. I completed my plan. My plan was good, but at the same time, when those details actually become available, my plan stands no good at all. I will have to make necessary amendments to my project management plan as if it can be workable throughout. So, this process of continuously changing and improving the project management plan, or for that matter, the planning process, this is called progressive elaboration. As we move ahead in the life of the project, progress ahead in the life of the project, further elaborations are made, and project management plan is continuously being amended. Throughout the life of a project, we are going through this progressive elaboration cycle. Let us see what a progressive elaboration means. This terminology is not classically an English language term. This is one of the few terms which have been coined by PMI. PMI owns the rights for these terminologies like progressive elaboration, like organizational process assets, like enterprise environmental factors, like rolling wave planning. So we will study all these different terms, but right now we are talking about progressive elaboration. Progressive elaboration involves continuously improving within the project I'm talking now. I'm not talking in the organizational perspective, because the continuous improvement in the perspective of the organization means that we are trying to bring some improvement or change in the organization. Right now we are talking about within the project. Within the project, I planned something in detail very proactively, and there is still room for improvement. So this continuously improving and detailing a plan as the following becomes available. And what is following? More detailed information becomes available. More specific information become available for certain things which was not available before. And more accurate estimates are available. I did not exactly know how much a brick will cost. And so I just say, okay, uh, let's assume it will cost $1. And later on, over the period of time, in the mid of the project, I may learn that actually it will cost me $2. So all my estimates made earlier were wrong. Now the fact is available, more accurate estimates have become available. I must amend my project management plan accordingly, my estimates accordingly, as if we can do a workable project. It allows a project management team to define work and manage it to a greater level of detail as the project evolves. So, as the project moves ahead in its life, we learn more about it. We know in further greater details about various aspects of the project, and things which could not have been planned earlier in that much detail are now planned. And thus, the project evolves to perfection or to its completion. Are you all clear about the concept of progressive elaboration? Okay, I think I should stop here because the next topic is very engrossing, and I want to start with a fresh mind tomorrow about what is portfolio management, what is program management, what is project management, and all that. So, if there are any questions, I'll open up the mics. Anyone who can speak, you can speak, and we can, you can, those who cannot speak, they can write their queries in here. So, house is open. You can chat, you can. Yes, there is.
Everything is clear, sir.
That is very fine.
No, everything is clear. Means you have explained in a very good manner. Everything's clear.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Anyone else? Rijo, how are you? Can you speak? Okay. Vasif, Atif, Shahid.
No, sir, it is clear.
Okay, okay. Okay, wonderful. If you do not have any questions, yeah, Rijo, please. Rijo, we can't hear you. Probably you have to write in the chat window. I'm sorry we could not talk to you today. Okay, okay. Right. Rijo, the thing is, I have explained it in the first and second lecture. You do not need to go for sixth edition right now. If at all you are determined to do it before the exam changes. So if you can pass it on fifth edition, it will be much easier for you to survive. Why? Because the sixth edition initially would have a lot many bugs, not the standard itself, but the questions. The exam will have a lot of bugs. So it will be very difficult to pass it in at least first 6 months of the release. So from March to September next year in 2018, this is very dangerous to appear in the new edition. This is safe to appear in fifth edition because it is a mature test and there is no problem. Everybody knows about it. Everybody is teaching you, and if everybody can understand it very easily, there is no problem. If you are a PMP on fifth edition, you do not have to do the PMP again. So for the time being, it is good to go for PMP on fifth edition, but then there is a caution. I know you are very busy. I want you to determinedly decide for once that you will appear in the PMP exam uh, before the end of December. Why? Why I'm saying end of December? Because yes, exam date changes on 28th or 26th of March 2018, but the last 3 months of the exam would be very crowded. And because it is a percentile based exam, it is very highly likely that it will be difficult to pass. So you must prepare for the fifth edition, and you must apply for PMP examination and get a date. Get a date for your exam because it will be very difficult to get the dates later. Get a date, and let's say from 15 December, between 15 December and say 21 December. You must get a date. Yes, Adris, what are you saying? Okay.
Actually, I have sent you one email, sir, regarding my application. So can you please have a look and let me know if anything needs to be changes or not?
Of course, I'll do that. I'll do that.
Yeah. And the other thing, you told us that you can issue this certificate in advance.
Yeah.
So in order to complete the process, we need that certificate too, sir. So can you
Okay.
please?
You don't need the certificate. You make a claim in your application that you have attended this course. I'll provide
Okay.
you the
Okay.
dates. You write those dates, write the name of my institute, and you apply for that. If they ask for the audit and they ask for the certificate, only then you will require the certificate. In that case,
Okay. So
I'll make that available.
yes. Okay. So it's better just give me the detail of these two things, dates,
Yeah.
and what is the full name of the institute. So
Yes.
I will mention in that one.
Right. Right. I'll do that.
Sir, I'll be needing these information as well. I have also shared my application with you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So
You can review. Yeah.
you sent an email.
Yes, I sent email today.
Okay. So I'm getting an email from whom? From Idris and Shahid, right?
Yes, sir.
Fine.
Yes.
Wonderful. I'll respond to both of you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we should call it a day. Thank you very much for your company and patience, especially when the mics don't work and things like that. But I'm really thankful for your patience. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.